The 10mm automatic. Why is it one of the best pistol rounds ever created? Well, we should say, why is the 357 Magnum one of the best pistol rounds ever created? Because it is. The 357 Magnum it's a true Magnum, and it is one of the best pistol rounds ever created, along with the 10mm. And these two are kind of like what the 6.5 PRC and the 270 Winchester are today. That's, we have a lot of back and forth about which one's better or they're the same. And so I decided to do this video because I got this ammunition in today, this Underwood 10mm, and I figured I'd get these two guns out and talk a little bit about the ammunition I've shot in and my experiences with them. And so first off, I just want to say I'm a little bit confused about the packaging on this this new 10mm. So 200 grains at 1250. That's around what the original Norma loading was back in the 1980s with the 200 grain. They did a 200 and a 170 grain load for the 10mm, which a lot of you know the FBI ended up picking up the 10mm for their duty carry. I believe Smith & Wesson produced a little over 1,000 guns for them, and it didn't last very long. But what I'm confused about, they've repackaged this. I've got some of the 357 over here. They've repackaged this as personal defense round. They did the little clear thing here so you can kind of see the ammo in there. But that's what confuses me, is the personal defense round. A 200 grain, you want to do 135, 155, 165 grain and 10mm. I would consider that more of a personal defense round. And obviously you can use this for personal defense, but I don't know why they've decided to brand it as, I don't know if all of them are like that now. Like, even if you got like the lighter grains, if it would still be personal defense, if they're trying to brand their 10mm ammo as personal defense now. But 200 grain is definitely not what that's not my first pick for personal defense. If I was going to do personal defense, I would probably stick in the 155, 165. I guess some people like the 135s. I've shot some of the 135s before, but this is going to be for hunting. This isn't 200 grain. That's not what I consider really personal defense, but to each their own. So now I've had this box of Hornady here. This is 200 grain also. All these are XTPs, and so I got several boxes of that Hornady 200 grain, this factory ammunition, years ago, and I shot my first buck. First buck I ever killed with a 10mm with that same load, that Hornady 200 grain factory ammunition. That was back in the early 2000s. I think it was 2001 when I killed my first buck. It was only the second deer I ever shot. I shot it with a Model 610, Smith Model 610 that I used to have. I sold it to a friend of mine, and I shot it at about 15 yards with that same load, one shot. straight between the shoulder blades, and it ended up all the way down low in the pelvis down there. I recovered the bullet. I've lost it years ago, but it was a decent 8-point. He didn't go maybe 30, 40 yards and piled up. But I've always been enthralled with the 10 millimeter. I remember getting gun magazines back in the 80s, back when I was a kid, back before the internet and all that. And you would get a gun, you'd wait, for a gun magazine to come once a month so that you could kind of catch up on what was going on. And I was right there at the peak of it. I was there in the mid to late 80s, looking at the gun magazines and Miami Vice with the 10 millimeters, and I was right there looking at all the stuff on the reading all the articles about 10 millimeter. I was there reading about the 40 caliber when it first came out, the Glock and all that. And yeah, so I've always been a 10 millimeter guy. I always wanted a 10 millimeter. My first one was that Model 610, and I got that. I think it was 1998, I believe it was. And then I ended up with a model Glock 29 and Smith. I believe it was a 1086 or 1046. I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of those two. And I ended up with a Colt Delta. So at one time I had 4. But the interesting thing about it was, at that time in the the late 90s, early 2000s, there wasn't a lot of good factory ammunition. So basically, I never really shot full power stuff in 10 millimeter till I bought this one, and just factory practice stuff anyway, until last year when I started buying this Underwood range ammo. And now I was hand loading. I started hand loading for the 10 millimeter back in the early 2000s. But as far as buying factory ammunition, I never fired really any good stuff until last year when I got that Underwood. So I sold off and traded off those 410s that I had, and so I didn't have a 10 millimeter for a long time until last year. And I just felt like something was, I felt like something was missing. I needed another 10 millimeter, and I did this one. This is the SIG Elite series, and they don't produce these anymore. I got this on Gunbroker. Did an auction on it on Gunbroker, and someone came in last 30 minutes of that auction, and I had to go back and forth with them. But this was new in the box, even though it's old stock. It was new in the box, and so I ended up getting this one. Then of course I got that Kimber now, and I plan on adding some other ones. But I don't know, I had a 357. I had a Model 60 Pro. It's a J-frame 3-inch 357. And I bought that Model 60. Oh man, that was, I don't know, probably 15 years ago. I bought that Model 60. Sold it to the same guy that I sold my Model 610 to, and I just wanted to kind of explore what the capabilities, what a true 357 was with the 6-inch, because that was the only 357 that I had, and I was always kind of stacking up 10 millimeter with 357, because that's kind of what you do. These two are so similar that like I said, it's kind of like the 6.5 PRC and the 270. You get, that's kind of what the comparison is. So I bought this probably 4 years ago now. It's 586, and I haven't actually hunted with. Well, I have hunted with it. I haven't shot anything with it. Let me say that. I have carried it, but all I've really done is shoot. I've practiced with it and stuff. And this 10 millimeter. Let's put that over there. Let's look at some of this stuff here. What do we got? So I know when I was back in the day, people were talking. I was, gun tube didn't even exist back in the late 90s and early 2000s. YouTube didn't exist. None of the social media stuff existed. So you really had to read. You'd read old gun boards and stuff online, and you'd read about ammunition or people's experiences on different stuff. And people were talking about for years 10 millimeter was the almost the equivalent of 41 Magnum. Well, all you have to do is go look at ammunition online, and you'll see that. I wanted to believe that. I used to say the same thing, that 41 was right on the heels of the 10 millimeter was right on the heels of 41 Magnum. Well, that's absolutely not true. That is absolutely not true. All you have to do is look at the ammunition. Your 10 millimeter, these loads are all these loads are in the 600 to 700 foot-pounds of energy, and that's where your standard operating loads are in 10 millimeter. 357 is about the same to a little bit hotter, but the 41 Magnum, no, it's 41 Magnum. It's up around 1,000 foot-pounds. It'd be like shooting it's like the comparison of shooting a 10 millimeter plus a 9 millimeter to equal a 41 Magnum. That's basically what it is. And I'll have to say, after shooting, and this, I have to say, this Norma is some pretty good. It's pretty stout. I haven't run any of this stuff through the chronograph, but I can just tell you from shooting it, this Norma stuff is pretty good. I've shot a bunch of different stuff in this 357, and I wanted to believe that the 10 millimeter is equal to the 357. Now, when we're talking handguns. We're not talking ballistic coefficients and all that. It doesn't really matter. You're looking at 25, 50 yards, whatever. Your BCs, we're not talking about long range rifle and all that kind of stuff. Energy and velocity is really all that matters, in my opinion. Yes, penetration and all that, and can you hit vitals? And yes, that's important. You don't 135 grain bullet and a 10 millimeter isn't something that you really want to go hunting with. I get that. The velocity and the energy might be good, but the bullet penetration won't be good. But shooting this 357, it does have a little bit of extra. It is a little bit extra, I have to admit that, over the 10 millimeter. This 10 millimeter, now this SIG is fairly heavy. It's a large frame gun. It's comfortable to shoot, even with anything. This larger frame 357, this 586, it's comfortable to shoot too. But when you shoot it with some of the higher energy stuff, there's just a difference. This stuff is this high velocity stuff, 1,700 feet per second. When you shoot it, there's the blast that comes out of this gun is different than this gun, and it just has a little bit of extra on it. It's just a little bit more pissed off, whatever you want to call it. It just is. And it doesn't mean that 10 millimeter isn't what it, the 10 millimeter is great, but 357, in my opinion, is just a little bit extra. Is it going to make a difference if you shoot somebody or shoot an animal or whatever? I don't think so, but I do believe it does. It is just a little bit extra over 10 millimeter, and 10 millimeter is great because it's in a semi-automatic package, and 357 is what it is. This is it's an awesome revolver, 6-inch. Um, but yeah, I'll tell you from shooting that Kimber the other day, um, that Kimber has more, uh, even though it's compensated, has more recoil and more muzzle jump than this Sig does. This Sig is, I'm telling you guys, shooting this with full power ammunition in this Sig is nothing. I mean, it is. I mean, maybe if you are used to shooting 9 millimeter, 45 or something, you might be able to tell the difference. But for me, shooting this with the full power 10 millimeter is nothing. Now the design of that 1911 with that Kimber, even though it's compensated, it does have a little bit more recoil on it. This gun doesn't have a lot of recoil. It's just fierce. Indoor range, people don't want, if you fire this thing off, you're shooting full power ammunition in it. I live like maybe a mile away from Palmetto Armory, and one of the locations anyway. I live about a mile away, and I've been in that indoor range before, and I don't know if they know what guns I have, but they put me a couple lanes away from the guys shooting the 380s and the 9 millimeters and the 45s and stuff. They put me a couple lanes away. And not saying that 357 is the most powerful gun that they've ever seen down there, but it seems like that they put me a couple lanes down from everybody else. And I've had people come over and compliment me on this gun. And you fire some of this stuff that's 1700 feet per second. When it goes off in an indoor range, people notice it. They notice the 10 millimeter too, but they notice the 357 more. It just has there's a different muzzle blast, a different concussion, a different sound, I guess, when it goes off, and people notice that. I would like to say that I have some experience, taking some deer with this, but I don't. But I can say that this Underwood, I know that Buffalo Boar Tim Sundles has an issue with the there's a deal. I watched that video last year. There's a deal with the Underwood and the Buffalo Boar. I haven't really. I've never shot any of the Buffalo Boar stuff. I got into Underwood years back with the 357, and it's carried over in a 10 millimeter now because it's so easy to get stuff online, guys. I mean, before we'd go down to Walmart or go here or there and go look for ammunition. Now you just go look online. You just get what you want to get. I'm on Gunbroker. I get the stuff. I go to I went to Underwood. I ordered these 2 boxes. I don't go look for ammunition anymore. I just get online and order it. But the like I said, Buffalo Boar, I know there's been a deal with that, with Tim having an issue with Underwood. I can say from my experience, Underwood's good. Now, I haven't run it through a chronograph, but it's definitely some high-powered stuff. It's definitely pissed off, whatever you want to call it. This stuff right here, this Hornady, years back, when I was shooting this stuff, it was enough, and it's enough now, really. I mean, it's $1,050 for this 200 grain XTP, and like I said, I killed my first buck with it. I ended up killing 2 of the deer that I have on my wall. I killed with that 610. I killed 2 8-points with it. My first buck I ever killed with it, and I killed another one, and I killed another buck with some hand loaded 180 XTPs back in the mid 2000s. But one day I would like to take something with this 357, and this, I wanted to say before I owned a 6-inch 357, I wanted to say yes, 10 millimeter or 5-inch 10 millimeter. It's the same as the 357, 5 or 6 inch 357. And just from shooting the two guns, and this is just my personal opinion, it's not the same. The 357 just has a little bit more. If you're shooting full power ammunition, it's just a little bit extra. Um, I don't have any data on that. It's just from feel, from shooting it, and that's just what it is. So, but I just figured I'd make this video. Like I said, I just got this ammo in, and I want to shoot that. Next time I shoot that Kimber, I'm gonna go ahead and zero it in with this stuff here, and I'll have some left over for hunting season. And heck, I've got all kinds of different ammunition. I've got some old PMC from years back. I've got hand loaded stuff from years ago. I've got they don't even make that load anymore. I was looking at Underwood. They don't even make that 165 anymore, and that's what I've got loaded in this for home defense. I've got that 165 loaded in here. They don't even make that one anymore. It seems like everybody's going to a hard cast now. I don't know if anybody else noticed that. Like if you go look online at your ammunition, like your Buffalo Bore, your Underwood, things like that, it seems like everybody's going to a hard cast. And I guess if I was in bear country, I might go to a hard cast. But I really wish that they would make some more of this 165, 155, 180, just regular stuff. But so anyway, well, I'm gonna go ahead and get off here, and hope y'all have a good one.